What's going on, guys? Today we got a pretty cool video here. We have three of the best 308 battle rifles on the market today. Some of them are pretty hype, like this one right here. This is the SIG MCX Spear. This is an actual SBR, very close to the version our US Army just adopted for their service rifle. However, this is in 308. The 277 Fury is the one that the US Army is going to be utilizing, but this is a very close approximation of what they are going to get. Here we have a pretty awesome gun right now. This is a Galil Ace Gen 2 in 308. Amazing gun. This is basically an upsized AK-47 to shoot 308. And across my body right here, we have the Scar 17S. This one, as you can see, is a little bit more accessorized. This is my personal gun. The other two are prospective purchases that we're going over right now. And we are just going to go over the feature set of all these guns, because I haven't seen many videos with these actually compared to each other, all in the same video. So we're going to go over the features of these. This one's obviously a little bit modified, but we're going to go over what the Scar can get turned into, because that's just as important as what it is from the factory. I feel like factory guns are what they are, and then you can customize them from there, make them into something more effective and better performing overall. So let's start with my personal gun, the Scar 17, and we'll go from there. Alright, so we're starting with my personal gun, the Scar 17S. This is a gun of myth and legend. This gun was born due to SOCOM wanting a more reliable gun than the M4. This was their effort, particularly FN's effort, to dethrone the M4 as the US service rifle. And it did for a very short amount of time. There were some teething issues when the Scar first came out. This is the Scar 17S in 308, and this saw the most actual use in our military service. Guys today are still using them in SOCOM, particularly with like 13-inch barrels, and it's looked at pretty fondly from videos I've seen online and talking to a couple guys that have used it in the service, saying that they did like it. Here we have a slightly modified Scar 17S. This normally comes with a 16-inch barrel. This barrel has been chopped to about 14 inches, 14.5 inches, and then we have a pinned and welded muzzle brake on here that's a QD attachment for an OSS suppressor. Then it's accessorized appropriately to my preferences. We have the FBLC with a Unity Tactical pressure switch. We have powerful weapon light going on right here with the pressure switch on the top. We have the best 1:6 power scope, low power variable optic there is, in my opinion. The Z6i, friggin' amazing optic. But the gun itself, we start at the rear. We have that iconic UGG boot stock with the cheek riser, which is very useful. On the other side, we have a simple button, press it, stock folds over, and then it does lock right on the ejection port right there. It will lock right there, a little bit of a pull and snap, and it snaps into place. Originally these were all made of plastic, which mine is one of the OGs made of plastic. In the military, guys saw that those were breaking, so they adjusted that to a steel actual button in order to make it a little bit more durable so the stock wouldn't break. I have never changed the stock. You'll see guys running the ACR stock and stuff, replicas of that. I've never changed this. I absolutely love it. This butt pad offers perfect texture, perfect contact with your shoulder. Folding mechanism is perfect. Never had a problem with it. Love it. It originally comes with an A2 pistol grip, which is outrageous for these $4,000 guns. I mean, when Scar originally was made and purchased and available for sale to civilians, it was probably around like $3,500. I think I paid probably around $3,500, $3,300 for this gun. Now they're all the way up to $3,700 for a SCAR 17S NRCH. So that's why we'll go a little bit forward and we'll get into that. So this is the original reciprocating charging handle version of the SCAR. Nowadays we have the NRCH version of the SCAR. That was actually requested by SOCON themselves, that they wanted specifically a reciprocating charging handle. That was one of their requirements. So that's why the SCAR did have that, and for a long time people were like, why is this expensive modernized rifle made with a reciprocating charging handle? And it was just because the U.S. Army requests what it requests, and sometimes it doesn't always make sense. And so that's why it was. Eventually got around to changing it to the non-reciprocating, which you can upgrade your older SCAR 17s, 16s to a non-reciprocating charging handle kit. If you can find one, they're around $1,000, I think. I have one, I haven't installed it yet. You do need to replace this end plate for the carrier to latch onto, and that allows for the non-reciprocating nature of the bolt carrier group being in two pieces. We then come down, they have a proprietary magazine. That is one of the knocks of the SCAR, is the proprietary magazine. It doesn't use normal SR25 mags. That would have been an improvement, but at the time, the normal SR25 mags weren't crazy popular like they are now, so they thought it would have been fine to adapt to their own system. There are lowers you can purchase that change this, but they're expensive and kind of gimmicky, and they're a little bit heavier than the normal plastic one. Not really worth doing. The SCAR magazines work perfectly fine, so I never did it, and I was always perfectly happy with the original plastic lower. The interesting thing about the SCAR is the lower is not the serialized part. The serialized part is the large monolithic upper receiver right here. That is actual serialized part. So you can buy lowers, aftermarket ones in different styling and SR25 versions, and there's no problem. You can just snap it right on. The trigger in the normal SCAR, normal mil-spec triggers, nothing special at all. This is a Galil upgrade, and then you'll also notice that I did put a bad lever on the SCAR and Radian 45-degree safety selectors, and then a BCM grip. So that's one of, like I was saying, the knocks of the SCAR is you end up buying this expensive rifle, but it has a normal A2 grip on it. It has just a normal mediocre safety selector. It is not ambidextrous, so with more modern guns like the Spear that we're going to go over, we do have right-sided bolt releases and bolt catches and all sorts of stuff like that, which are more common on modern ARs. Don't have that on the SCAR. Even the newest version of the SCAR don't have right-sided bolt release and charging handle, but I've always loved the bad lever. I went over that in a recent 7.62x39 AR build I have. I enjoy the bad lever. I've never had a problem with it, never had a problem with it catching on equipment and stuff. I have brought this gun to numerous rifle classes, one with John Level, and I've never had a problem with this catching on anything. I've always loved it. It's very easy to actuate the bad lever, just pushing it up easily lets you lock it back, and then just the slightest push, it's so light, the bolt will go home. So I'm a big fan of bad levers, and this particular one you can get it, I think it's Parker Mountain Machine that makes this particular bad lever. Coming forward, the other kind of oversight of the SCAR, especially modern SCARs that are released right now, is not having a forward handguard. And Kinetic Development made this rail a long time ago, and it is still perfect today. So getting this is kind of a mandatory if you have a SCAR, because if you can see, this rail deletes the side Picatinny rail, the bottom Picatinny rail, and then it just smooths out the rifle, slims it out a little bit, and then lengthens it all the way down to the end of my pinned and welded muzzle brake, which gives you an extra like 5 inches probably of rail space, maybe 6. Like it's a decent amount more rail space, which is where I actually mounted all of my accessories, the APLC and everything, and the light. It just makes it extremely convenient to hold the rifle a little more forward and not have to hold it back here, because normally this is where your hand would be on the SCAR, and which was problematic because if you notice right here, we had a reciprocating charging handle. You had a limited rail space to put your hand when you were holding the SCAR, so there was a lot of thumbs that were damaged from the SCAR's reciprocating charging handle. Mine being one of them. I remember a couple times before I had this rail on there, I just had my thumb just behind the charging handle, and that's a mistake you only make once or twice until you are like, I'm just going to buy a rail, or I am going to make sure that I hold it way up and put like a little reminder, like a little angled foregrip or something, so that you avoid that. Not a problem with the modern non-reciprocating charging handle, but still, this rail, by Kinetic Development, is an actual game changer when it comes to the SCAR's platform in general. It's a must-have, in my opinion, and it should come from the factory like this. So that is a shortcoming of this gun in general, and a big complaint when people talk about the SCAR is the actual rail setup and going into the same ideologies of the A2 grip and the mediocre trigger and mediocre safety selector, all of that stuff. For a gun this premium and that's meant for some serious use, it should have been accessorized better just from the factory. We do have amazing factory sights. I did take off the rear one because of my scope, but the front sight is still right here. That just pops up from a little push of a button. That will pop up and it will lock into place. There's a little locking mechanism right there, you can see. That's an amazing setup. It does come with sights, so that's something that not a lot of guns have anymore, are actual iron sights that come with the gun. But for like $4,000, get some iron sights, and they're pretty good. You do have an adjustable gas block right here. This is a short stroke gas piston gun. We can move this over to the right and to the left, increase, decrease gas. A finicky thing about the SCAR, and what a lot of guys that go into serious use complain about, is if you put a silencer on the SCAR, you technically void your warranty. This is problematic because 308 is super loud, and then even 5.56, you want silencers on your gun. Silencers is a better way to shoot all around. Especially in serious use conditions, or a gun built for serious use conditions, you're going to want a silencer, and that's a shortcoming of a very expensive gun meant for serious use. But that being said, talking about the shortcomings of the SCAR, when you do put it all together and you add some accessories, you bring your $3,300 gun, $3,500 gun, you put about $500 or $600 worth of accessories into this gun, you do get a phenomenal package. This gun, as it is now, is easily my favorite rifle that I own and that I've ever personally shot to date. So that is one thing about the SCAR, is you can knock it for this and that coming from the factory, but what you can turn it into, which is basically an AR, you know, and as ARs are very customizable, and I have lots of different styles of ARs, the SCAR is too. It has great aftermarket support, like I said, for lowers, rails, accessories, stuff like that. This Galil trigger is outrageously good. We have that awesome radiant safety selector. So a little bit of take up, and then wall. Oh my god, what a fantastic trigger this Galil is. And then reset, it's almost imperceivable, just like half a millimeter, 1 millimeter break reset. Just amazing trigger once you get the Galil. Then what else did I do to this thing that's really important? I did upgrade the charging handle to make it a little bit easier, bring it a little bit further out from the top over here, because I used to have an EOTech on this, and then with the EOTech your hand would scrape the EOTech the whole way down, which is no bueno, not fun at all. And then just an angle foregrip on the front, but overall you're looking at a package, if you were to buy one today, SCAR 17S non-reciprocating charging handle is about $3,600 to $3,700 out the door. Then add the kinetic development rail. Like I said, Geisley trigger is probably 300 bucks. It's got to be. So you're looking at about 800 bucks. So you're looking at about a $4,500 gun all set up. And then obviously optics and lights, lasers to your heart's content. Now we're going to go into the SIG MCX Spear. Alright guys, here we are. This is a infamous rifle right now. It's kind of a unicorn to come by. This is the SIG MCX Spear. This is the US military's new service rifle. This is an actual SBR. This one is chambered in 7.62 by 51 308. And then the military's is actually 277 Fury, or 6.8 by 51. It was just derived from the 308 cartridge. This is, as I was saying, quickly becoming infamous even among non-gun people because of its military background in finally replacing the M4 as our US military's standard issued rifle. It is quite controversial due to the caliber. This is not the magazine it actually comes with. This one just matches the gun better. It comes with an SR25 mag, pull mag. This does take SR25 magazines though. And the reason why it's so controversial is because the US Army has used 5.56 for a very long time. And any time that it did use a larger full-size battle rifle caliber, namely 308, it didn't last very long due to recoil and then just the amount of ammo that a person can carry on them for a given loadout. The amount of weight that is, 5.56 generally gave the upper hand because you just had more ammo, and the person with more ammo technically, historically, had won the confrontation because they could outlast, outmaneuver, suppressive fire, all stuff like that. But anyway, this is it, and it is hyped all over YouTube and anyone who's actually gotten it. Usually the people that have this are actual gun influencers. This is not my rifle, as you can see. We still have a tag on here. I am in Only the Best Firearms in South Florida. If you guys are around here, you want to check out this rifle, you can come check it out. This is a amazingly expensive gun, as well as for its controversy. This is about, let's see, it's a $4,400 gun. That is the problem with the MCX Spear, is it does come at a premium price point. The current SCAR's retailing price is around $3,700, so this one's going to cost you about $600 more, give or take, for this actual gun. And this is an SBR, so if you were to buy this, you would have to wait an actual Form 4 waiting period, anywhere from 1 month all the way up to like 8 months for this thing. Let's go over the features of the MCX Spear. So back here we do have a little telescoping stock, and I do designate this as little because it is very, very small. This is a tiny CQB stock on this very large rifle. I think that they did this possibly for maneuverability and most certainly for weight savings, as this is a hefty boy right here. This is a very, very heavy gun. The MCX Spear has some interesting design choices that make it extremely heavy. So wherever they could save weight, it looks like they tried to in the best that they could. So we do have this very small stock right here. It does offer a decent shoulder pocket contact. However, it is very thin, so typically when you're shooting 308 guns, like the SCAR over here, we have a pretty decent curved, textured pad right here. And if you'll see, with the spear right next to it, it's about half. So whenever you get into the larger calibers, whenever a gun is not pleasant to shoot, you're gonna shoot it less, you're gonna shoot it worse. So I have not shot this gun yet, but that is just an impression that I get off the bat, is that this is a small, firm butt pad, which is probably not preferable in such a large gun with a decently hot caliber and powerful caliber like 308 or 277 Fury. This actually is a folding system though, as it looks like it does have an M4 style buffer tube. That's not actually part of the function of the gun. That is just for accessorizing, so you could switch this out. For a $4,400 gun, you shouldn't really have to switch out your stock, but maybe some people will prefer this tiny stock. The actual folding mechanism is very interesting on the SIG MCX spear. So you do have a button right here that you have to push to fold it. But the problem is that you push the button down and then you actually have to pull the stock up. So it is oddly difficult to do for me. I basically have to do that in order to get the stock released. One of the guys here that works at the gun shop has been able to do it one-handed without a problem, but I just seem to not be able to do this. My hand just can't figure out how to lift up and push the button down on the same part. I need to hold the rifle like this, then pull button, now I can fold it. It's a very awkward folding mechanism. Even after he showed me how to do it, I've only been able to do it once, one-handed. So it's not very intuitive. I think that that's the bigger problem here, is that like, I can look at this gun, pretty experienced with firearms, and I can't intuitively figure out how to one-handed fold this stock. Now, when you're folding a stock, should you be in a rush? Are you gonna be in a rush? Probably not. Is it a big deal that you have to tilt the gun or you move your support hand? Should you be able to fold it from a fighting position and just fold it real quick? As far as convenience is concerned, yes. I feel like the SCAR doesn't have this problem. The SCAR folds very easily, unfolds very easily, and then for me to have this awkward situation where I'm trying to pull up and push down simultaneously and I have to tilt the gun upside down, it's an expensive gun. It should be easier. I don't see why it has these conflicting push-pull things going on in the same piece. Once it is folded, it doesn't lock, but there is some spring tension there that holds it pretty tight, and then it folds very easily, unfolds, very easily, unlike the SCAR. So the SCAR, you have to slam it into place, and then the tabs will lock behind the locking mechanism. This effortlessly closes, so while it's very hard to open, or close, it's very easy to open. Coming forward, we have a SIG Sauer grip. This is a very good grip. It's very small. It's almost like a compact grip, but it's fantastic, very ergonomic. I could see myself using this on other guns, even not related to the spear. Very good grip by them. We have a standard safety selector, 90-degree throw, just like every other mil-spec kind of gun. The trigger, let's go into the trigger. Right here on the MCX spear. All right, so the trigger. We're gonna make sure this is clear. We have a little bit of take-up. This spring tension on the take-up is much heavier than what you would expect. When you first feel into this trigger, you'd almost feel like it's a single stage, but it's actually a two-stage. So it's pretty heavy take-up, probably like 3 or 4 pounds, like heavier than the Geisley altogether on the SCAR. And then we have a wall. Pretty heavy trigger in general. Reset. Very forceful reset, pretty short, all the way to the end though, and then we have more take up, and then your break. So the trigger is decent, but it's very heavy. Probably intentional for the military specifications, but not the nicest trigger. You would want to upgrade it for sure. SCAR also doesn't come with a great trigger, so a lot of these mil-spec guns come with mil-spec triggers, and mil-spec triggers typically are not the best. Probably designated by the military, wanting it heavier due to safety reasons. So let's come forward on this gun, and we're going to talk about an interesting thing about the MCX. So right here, we have a normal M4 style charging handle right there. You can see it kind of gets caught here on the stock. You hear that? It's actually hitting the stock when you pull your charging handle back, and your knuckles are getting grated by the stock. So this is a very low profile charging handle. It's going to hit the stock, you can hear that, but if it's all the way back, you actually see how there's a lot of play here. So if you're pulling like this and you're pulling down, the play is actually going to make you hit the stock of the MCX spear. I very much dislike this design. It's kind of like an afterthought charging handle going on here, because it's actually the second one on the gun. Over here, we have the side charging handle, and this one has this metal spring-loaded tab right here, and we pull out and back. And there's a very heavy recoil spring inside here. So here's an interesting thing about charging the spear. So if you come up here, you have this afterthought M4 style wiggling charging handle up here. This one is easier to pull. It's more natural to pull, we're more used to it, but this is much easier to pull for some reason. This one has a much better purchase and doesn't have that issue where you're hitting anything, but it feels much grittier and harder to pull than this one. So we have this strange choice you're given between charging handles, and both of them have their downsides. The side charging handle is easier to hold, you're not hitting anything, there's nothing impeding its function, but it's very gritty and tough, and it's very hard to pull back. This one's very easy to pull back, but it's moving up and down as you pull, so depending upon the angle, like if you tilt it down and you pull, it's not a problem. If your gun's tilted up and you pull, you're gonna hit the stock. So I haven't heard anyone else talk about this. This is a pretty big deal in my opinion. It's kind of a oversight on SIG's R&D to make this thing hit the stock. That's kind of crazy. So let's just keep moving on. So that's charging the gun. You have no good options to charge the MCX spear. It's either super heavy or something's in the way. So let's move down to the lower. We have a fully ambidextrous lower. So here is our slide catch. So we can come over here and then catch the bolt just like that, and then down. That's going to release your bolt. That's a really cool feature. It's not exactly ergonomic though. Like I prefer the bad lever. If you were going to give me a bad lever or this particular style of bolt release, bolt catch on the right side, I would probably prefer the bad lever. This is obviously not going to get caught on anything, so it's a little bit more idiot proof, but its function is not as intuitive, and it's kind of hard to hold the gun, push up, and then rack it like that, as opposed to the bad lever on the SCAR, for instance. I think that's probably also due to the weight, the heavy, nose-heavy disposition of this gun, plus the heavy recoil spring, plus just the gritty nature of that side charging handle. So then we have a typical AR dust cover. We have the deflector that is replaceable. Apparently that is a heavy wear object. I've never had, through thousands and thousands of rounds, my deflector wear out, but that is a wear item right there. We do have a forward assist for those forward assist guys, and ambi, bolt release, bolt catch, magazine release, all that stuff. It does come with a Magpul P-Mag, 20 rounds. Coming forward to the handguard, we have a heavily ventilated, heavily skeletonized handguard with M-LOK everywhere that you can see. There's 2 rows right here. We have another row down here. We have 1, 2, 3 rows over here. There's M-LOK all over this thing, plus ventilation holes for everything to cool down. And it gives you a decent grip. It's pretty large, but it's a decent grip. Just put an angle foregrip on the end and you're good to go with that. We do have an adjustable gas system on the end. With the tip of a bullet, you can adjust that if it's hot. Otherwise, you can just twist it. We do have a 3-prong flash hider on the end as well, with seemingly seamless integration with SIG's silencers that you can thread right on there, as it's a QD mount as well. And then we have the 13-inch barrel right there for 308. And there we have the SIG MCX spear and all of its features, even the quirky ones. So this thing, as I said, is pretty hefty. This is 8.6 pounds as the SBR without the magazine. This is a heavy boy right here. And with that being said, we're gonna go right into the Galil Ace. And rounding out our trio of guns, 308 battle rifles, we have the Galil Ace in 308. This is a Gen 2 version of the Galil Ace. This is easily the least known out of all these 3, but it is a sleeper. This is a very cool gun, and we're going to go over it right here. So in the back, you will notice an M4 buffer tube. This is just for the stock. This is an M4 style stock. You can switch it out with any sort of M4 style stock. Right here, we just have a Magpul Industries stock. Good butt pad, good stock. You can change it up for anything you want though, if you wanted to change it. We do have a folding stock as well on this one. This one, you pull down, you have to push down on. This one, as well as the MCX, is harder to do. This one doesn't have a button, but I do need to hold the gun in a weird fashion in order to fold it. But in order to unfold it, very easy. It just slaps right into place. There being no button makes it good, but since you have to push down and not pull up, I do have to hold the gun with my support hand. Once it is all the way to the side, there is some spring tension here, pretty hefty spring tension, but the slightest movement, that'll undo the stock. It'll lock right in, very solid. Coming forward, this is basically an upsized AK-47, so we do have the dust cover right here, but it does have a rail on it, and this dust cover is affixed extremely securely. There is no wiggle in this rifle at all, anywhere. This is an extremely solid rifle, and from everything I have seen about this gun, it's so solid, it's actually hard to put back together once you take it apart. So you have to like hit this dust cover into place. But the lockup is fantastic. It is just beautifully fitted. It's almost like a hand fit gun. This is crazy. Then coming down, we have our safety selector right here that would just be like an AK, but actually it's not. We have on the other side, we have the most intuitive ergonomic safety I've ever used on a gun. So right here we have safe and then fire. Safe, fire. Now when you utilize that with your thumb, just like this, it's fantastic. That's also going to move the other side. So that is just a phenomenal safety. I've never seen anything like that. As soon as I picked up the gun, I was like, wow, that's so intuitive. Your thumb just sits right in the perfect place to slip that forward, and then you're on fire. Pistol grip is non-interchangeable, but it is phenomenal. So it is extremely ergonomic, extremely comfortable to grip. So while you can't change it, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and it does have a place for batteries, tools, whatever you want to put inside of it. So that's important. So if you're going to have a grip that you can't change, at least have it be a really good grip. They did succeed in that with this. You'll see that this gun has a mixture of polymer construction and steel construction. So down here, where the mag well is, where the pistol grip is, this is all polymer. Then this is all steel up here. So they did that to utilize in weight savings in the engineering, and it works phenomenally. This gun, like I said, has zero wiggle to it at all. It feels quality. It's a really well-built gun, and all the reliability functions that I've ever seen anyone do on this gun in in-range TV, Mac, everyone else, this gun just has rave reliability and function of returning to zero and function in adverse conditions. So top tier gun. It does have a reciprocating charging handle. So over here we have on the left side a reciprocating charging handle, and you'll see an actual dust cover that is spring loaded. So when you bring it back, you'll see it moves down, and then you can see into the gun a little bit, but then it also moves up. So it's actually spring loaded in 2 different locations. So we have the front spring load, back spring load, and both of those switch off as you cycle the gun to keep this gun as dust free as possible. On the other side, you'll see the ejection port right there. That is sealed off by the bolt carrier group itself right inside there. So this is a long stroke gas piston, just like an AK. Coming forward for the Gen 2, we have this phenomenal rail. Kind of looks like the MCX's rail. We have lots of M-lock right here. We have 2 rows right here. Then this looks like just lightning cuts. We have another row down there, 2 rows on that side again, and then we have the full top rail, which actually locks in via this dovetail into the upper dust cover. Like I said, everything is just so ironclad, locked in with this gun. Super tight tolerances on everything. On the end, we have a muzzle brake. This has an 11.8 inch barrel, so this actually has the lowest. This actually has the smallest barrel out of all the guns that we just showed right here, with the SCAR being about 14 inch, SIG being 13 inch, and then this is a 12 inch. So different barrel lengths, different twist rates, but the feel of this gun is fantastic. So this gun is actually only 6 pounds, 11 ounces for this thing. This is a sub 7 pound, 12 inch 308 battle rifle. That's fantastic. These guys got weight right. This thing feels phenomenal. Even when you include the SR25 magazine, which weighs about 6 ounces, give or take, this is just a phenomenal feeling firearm. Very pointable. It's so much more weight adaptability, maneuverability than all the other guns that I just held. The SCAR full size 16 inch, 8 pounds. SIG 13 inch, 8.6 pounds. This 6.7 pounds. So they got weight right on this gun. So the Galil does use SR25 mags. Here's a Lancer, drops free, fits perfectly, but one quirk with the AK-47 and others like that, there is no last shot hold open on this gun. So that's kind of give or take. That's going to get a little bit of knock against it. Last shot hold open is nice. It's always nice to not run dry surprised, and you're probably not going to be counting your ammunition. So that's kind of take it or leave it. A little quirk of this style of gun. Let's go over the trigger. So here is our trigger. Here's our awesome safety selector. We do have a little bit of take up right here. Then we have a wall, and then a little bit of a rolling brake, but it's nice and smooth, and probably about 4 pounds. Heavy reset, throws your finger out a little bit, back to the wall, about 4 or 5 pounds maybe. Really good trigger. It is reminiscent of like a good AR trigger. Has that little bit of a rolling brake, but it's super smooth. I like it more than the MCX's stock trigger, and more than the SCAR's stock trigger, actually. Very, very good trigger. Now, let's go over what I think about all these guns compared to each other. Alright boys, so we're coming to the end of the video, and we're going to talk about my personal preferences now. We're gonna pick a winner out of all three of these guns. If you had to give me a choice of one 308 battle rifle to own, to use for serious use, which one of these three am I going to pick? We have our Galil Ace, a Gen 2. This is the SBR, an 11.8 inch barrel, weighing in at 6.7 pounds. We have our SIG MCX Spear, 13 inch barrel, weighing in at 8.6 pounds. And then we have the gun right around my shoulder, and that is the SCAR 17S, weighing in at about 8 pounds. This particular one, with accessories and stuff, is going to vary, and also a shortened barrel, but 8 pounds for the 16 inch naked version. Which one of these three would I choose? Now, out of these three, there are two that are pretty closely matched, and I would have a hard time just right away choosing which one I wanted without having to investigate further. But one of them is easily worse than the other two. Which one is it? It's the unicorn right here, the new Army's rifle, the XM7, the SIG MCX Spear. I have to say, I am not a big fan of this firearm for things that I pointed out earlier in this video. It is crazy heavy. It's especially front heavy. Like, I will white knuckle right here trying to hold this thing like this. It's like there's a lead weight just right here. It's just way overly heavy for what this gun is. It should not be 8.6 pounds. The 16 inch variant is a 9.2 pounds. That's with this teeny weeny stock and with the smaller grip. It's an outrageously heavy, unwieldy firearm, in my opinion, compared to its competition. We're always comparing to competition, so is this a good gun? I'm sure it's a very good gun. I'm sure it's very reliable. I'm sure people are going to use it well. But when it comes to preferences and my opinions, I'm always comparing things to what else I could have picked up, I could have purchased. And for $4,400, this would not be high on the list of things that I'm going to purchase. Especially with this funky charging system where the top has so much flex that you can hit the actual stock, and then the side being so gritty, it's almost like I have no good options, smooth options to charge this gun, fix malfunctions, and just operate it. In general, I'm just not a huge fan. So we're gonna go between the Galil Ace and the SCAR 17S. So the Galil Ace, one very cool thing that I forgot to mention is this gun is only $2,200 for this fantastically engineered firearm. So we have this reciprocating charging handle, which is going to be probably the most contentious part of this gun. But man, is the action just so smooth. It's a very smooth action, very good charging handle. It's out of the way. It's nowhere close to where you're going to be holding it. This is very low profile. I don't think that out of all the reciprocating charging handles, I would prefer it be on the inside, so it's not going to hit something on the outside of me. So while I am up against something, I think it's easier to police something on the inside rather than the outside of your gun, because you can't see the outside. The inside, you can see it's right in front of you. So while this does have a reciprocating charging handle, I think it's a pretty well designed one. We don't have lost shot hold open, so that's kind of a knock against it. However, the weight and the ergonomics, the safety, the trigger, just all of the aesthetics about it, they got a lot of stuff right on this gun, and there's very little that I can nitpick about it that make it fantastic. With just phenomenal ergonomics is what I can say. Just can harken back to that. This is one of the most ergonomic battle rifles I've ever grabbed and just intuitively jived with right off the bat. So fantastic option right here. And for sure, if you said this or the MCX Spear, for half the money you could accessorize this with an LPVO, lights, lasers, anything you might want to put on it, magazines, and lots of ammo for the $2,000. So here you go. That is the Galil Ace Gen 2. And lastly, we have the SCAR 17S. I am slightly biased because I do own this gun. I have loved it for a very long time. This thing is phenomenal, but you do have to accessorize it. So the SCAR, once you get the non-reciprocating charging handle version or upgrade kit, once you get a rail, upgrade the grip, change bad lever, stuff like that. Once you get this thing accessorized, it is a phenomenal gun. It's very hard to knock this gun. SOCOM's used it in the 13-inch variant for a very long time. It's going to be weighing around 7.5 pounds in the 13-inch variant. So it's right along there with the Galil Ace. The Galil Ace is a little bit lighter, a little bit shorter barrel though. Just in general, this gun accessorizes very well. But then again, you're up into the $4,500 range to get this thing on par with a gun that's $2,200. So it's a little bit of give and take. There are better things about the SCAR because we have the non-reciprocating charging handle. We have blast shot hold open right there. You can see my hand was hitting the bad lever. Then we have the bad lever accessories. Better stock, in my opinion, easier to fold. You can bring this up and down. So I think the stock is phenomenal. KD rail, once you add it, it's just phenomenal. So it kind of depends on your budget, but the best budget option here, pound for pound, money for money, has got to be the Galil Ace. I'm kind of hard pressed to, for your average Joe, not call this the winner. Like I said, the only thing I can knock about this is the no last shot hold open. That's literally it. Literally it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. This was a long comparison between these three guns, and eventually we're going to be able to get out and shoot a couple of these and see what we think about it after we shoot it. As I didn't own a couple of these guns, obviously, eventually we're going to be able to shoot them and do a shooting comparison. Alright, catch you guys later.